An old man calls his son and says, "Listen, your mother and I are getting a divorce. 45 years of misery is enough." "Dad, what are you talking about?" The son screams. "We can't stand the sight of each other any longer," he says. "I'm sick of her face and I'm sick of talking about this, so call your sister and tell her," and he hangs up. Now the son is worried. He calls his sister. She says, "Like hell they're getting divorced." She calls their father immediately. "You're not getting divorced. Don't do another thing. The two of us are flying home tomorrow to talk about this. Until then, don't call a lawyer. Don't file a paper. Do you hear me?" She hangs up the phone. The old man turns to his wife and says, "Okay, they're both coming for Christmas and paying their own airfares." A man goes for a walk in the park. On his walk, he sees two men sitting on a park bench and looking very down. "What's wrong?" he asks them. One of the men looks up at the man and lets out a long sigh. "Take a seat and I'll tell you." Curious, he sits down next to the two men. "The paint's wet," the man says. An old woman walked into a dentist's office, took off all her clothes, and spread her legs. The dentist said, "I think you have the wrong room." "You put in my husband's teeth last week?" she replied. "Now you have to remove." A man walks into a doctor's office, sits down, and says, "Now, doctor, this may sound kind of strange, but I have 5 penises." Taken aback, the doctor asks him, "My God, how do your pants fit?" To which the man replies, "Like a glove." An old man was fitted with brand new hearing aids. His hearing was better than it was in his prime. He returned to the clinic a week after the fitting, and the audiologist asked him, "How are your hearing aids working?" The old man replied, "They are fantastic. They work so well, I've changed my will 3 times since last week." A guy goes with his girlfriend to stay at her parents' house for the holidays. The couple live in the city and the parents live on a farm. The boyfriend is unused to the quiet country life, and after a couple of days, he is pretty bored. His girlfriend's father comes in and says, "Hey, young fella, if you are looking for something to do, why not take the dogs out for a bit of hunting? There is a shotgun behind the laundry door." Guy comes back a couple of hours later. The father says, "How was it?" "That was amazing. Have you got any more dogs?" A young lawyer was defending a wealthy businessman in a lawsuit. The lawyer feared he was losing the case and asked his senior partner if he could send a box of very expensive cigars to the judge to earn some favor. The senior partner was horrified and explained, "This judge is a very honorable man. If you do that, I guarantee you will lose the case." A couple of days later, the judge ended up ruling in the young lawyer's favor, delivering a massive win for the businessman. Patting him on the back, the senior partner asked, "Hey, now aren't you glad you didn't send him those cigars?" The young lawyer said, "Oh, I sent them. I just included my opponent's business card in the box with them." 2 roaches are munching on garbage in an alley when one starts a discussion about a new restaurant. "I was in that new restaurant across the street," says one. "It's so clean. The kitchen is spotless and the floors are gleaming white. There is no dirt anywhere. It's so sanitary that the whole place shines." "Please," says the other roach, frowning. "Not while I'm eating." A Mormon was seated next to an Irishman on a flight from London to the US. After the plane was airborne, drink orders were taken. The Irishman asked for a whiskey, which was promptly brought and placed before him. The flight attendant then asked the Mormon if he would like a drink. He replied in disgust, "I'd rather be savagely raped by a dozen whores than let liquor touch my lips." The Irishman then handed his drink back to the attendant and said, "Me too. I didn't know we had a choice." One day, a Polish man was sitting in his apartment when his doorbell unexpectedly rang. He answered the door and found a salesman standing on his porch with a strange object. "What is that?" the Polish man asked. "It's a thermos," the salesman replied. "What does it do?" he asked. "This baby," the salesman said, "keeps hot things hot and cold things cold." After some deliberation, he bought one, deciding it would really help his lunch situation. The next day, he arrived at the plant where he works. Sure enough, all the other employees were curious about his new object. "What is it?" they asked. "It's a thermos," the Polish man replied. "What does it do?" they asked. "Well," the Polish man says in a bragging manner, "it keeps hot things hot and cold things cold." "What do you got in it?" To which he says, 3 cups of coffee and a popsicle." Joe grew up in a small town, then moved away to attend college and law school. He decided to come back to the small town because he could be a big man in this small town. He really wanted to impress everyone. He opened his new law office, but business was very slow at first. One day, he saw a man coming up the sidewalk to his office. He decided to make a big impression on this new client when he arrived. As the man came to the door, Joe picked up the phone. He motioned the man in, all the while saying, "No, absolutely not. You tell those clowns in New York that I won't settle this case for less than $1 million. Yes, the appeals court has agreed to hear that case next week. I'll be handling the primary argument, and the other members of my team will provide support. Okay, tell the DA that I'll meet with him next week to discuss the details." This sort of thing went on for almost 5 minutes. All the while, the man sat patiently as Joe rattled instructions. Finally, Joe put down the phone and turned to the man. I'm sorry for the delay," he said, "but as you can see, I'm very busy." "What can I do for you?" the man replied. I came to hook up your phone." My friends, if you want to watch other funny jokes, subscribe to the channel.